What's up, everybody? It's Nick here, and this is your second stimulus check stimulus package update video. Now, we've got lots of news to cover about the stimulus in today's video, but before we do that, I want to quickly invite you to hit that subscribe button below right now, turn the bell notification icon on so you don't miss any of my update videos on the second stimulus check and the stimulus package negotiations. Now, with that out of the way, let's dive straight into today's news. Last Friday, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said that her top priority right now is getting a stimulus bill passed for the American people.
Our focus in the Congress now in this lame duck, it continues to be on COVID relief. This is a red alert, all hands on deck. I urge our Republicans to accept the facts, acknowledge the crisis, and immediately come to the table to work on COVID relief.
Then on Saturday, November 14th, President Trump broke his post-election silence on stimulus by tweeting, quote, "Congress must do a COVID relief bill. Needs Democrats' support. Make it big and focused. Get it done." The following day, Sunday, November 15th, Senate Minority Leader and stimulus negotiator for the Democrats, Chuck Schumer, held a press conference where he responded to President Trump's stimulus tweet.
President Trump was off tweeting instead of leading again, but at least he talked about COVID. He just spelled one thing wrong. Here's what he said: Congress must now do a COVID relief bill. The word he spelled wrong was Congress. It should say McConnell. McConnell should do this because he's who's holding it all up. And now with even President Trump saying we need a big bill, we are urging McConnell to re-examine his position and work in a bipartisan way with Democrats and support the kind of COVID bill that meets the needs of New York and the needs of the American people. Every time we get close to a deal, Senator McConnell says no. He has become the Dr. No of COVID. 20 in his caucus want no money. Leader McConnell should say the heck with you. You're out of touch with America's great needs, particularly as COVID is increasing. Instead of doing this tweet, President Trump, pick up this phone and call Leader McConnell and say, let's sit down and get a bill done ASAP.
On Monday, November 16th, Joe Biden, president-elect, gave a speech on the coronavirus and his plans for the American economy. At the start of his speech, Biden announced that he had just gotten off the phone with America's top business leaders and labor union leaders.
He just met with a group of America's top business leaders and labor leaders. And I must tell you, it reinforced what I thought from the beginning. We're ready to come together.
Biden then name drops everybody who was on that conference call.
There was Mary Barra, CEO of General Motors, Brian Cornell, CEO of Target, Mr. Nadell, CEO of Microsoft, Rory Gamble, president of the UAW, Mary Kay Henry, president of SEIU, Mark Perone, president of UFCW, Lee Saunders, president of AFSCME, and Sonia Singhal, president of GAP, Richard Trumka, president of the AFL-CIO.
With coronavirus cases skyrocketing, Joe Biden had a dire warning for Americans this winter.
We're going into a very dark winter. Things are going to get much tougher before they get easier. More people may die if we don't coordinate.
Biden blamed both parties in Congress for failing to pass another stimulus package.
The refusal of Democrats and Republicans to cooperate with one another is not due to some mysterious force beyond our control. It's a conscious decision. It's a choice that we make.
Biden suggested that once he becomes the president, Pelosi and the Democrats may back down from their all-or-nothing approach to the stimulus deal with Republicans in order to pass a bipartisan bill.
If we can decide not to cooperate, then we can decide to cooperate. I believe this is in part the mandate from the American people, part of the mandate they gave us. They want us to cooperate. They want us to deliver results. And the choice that Kamala and I will make is that we're going to do that.
Biden warned that if we don't see another stimulus relief bill passed soon by Congress, that many of the first responders are going to be laid off.
There's a reason why the federal government is able to run a deficit, because the states must balance their budgets, and they're in real trouble. You're going to see hundreds of thousands of police officers, firefighters, first responders, mental health clinics. You're going to see them going out of business.
Biden then called on Congress to come together, put their partisan politics aside, and get relief passed now for the greater good of the American people.
Right now, Congress should come together and pass a COVID relief package like the HEROES Act that the House passed 6 months ago.
Biden then listed off some of the different forms of relief that he wants to see in the next stimulus package.
Child care, sick leave, family leave, so workers don't have to choose between work and family. $100 billion to rebuild our crumbling schools. And we all agreed on the urgent need for funding for states and localities to keep frontline workers and essential workers on the job. Vital public services, running law enforcement offices, educators, first responders, like we did in the Recovery Act of 2009, saving literally millions of jobs.
Biden also said in his plan for the American economy that he wants to see the minimum wage raised.
When we build back better, we'll do so with higher wages, including a $15 minimum wage nationwide, better benefits, stronger collective bargaining rights that you can raise a family on. That's how we build back the middle class better than ever.
Biden promised that labor unions under his presidency would play a bigger, more powerful role in the American economy.
I made it clear to the corporate leaders. I said, I want you to know I'm a union guy. Unions are going to have increased power. They just nodded. They understand. It's not anti-business. It's about economic growth, creating good paying jobs.
When asked about student loan forgiveness, here's what Biden had to say.
One thing I didn't hear you talk specifically about is canceling student loan debt. Does student loan forgiveness figure in your plan? Would you take executive action to achieve it?
It does figure in my plan. I've laid out in detail. For example, the legislation passed by the Democratic House calls for immediate $10,000 forgiveness of student loans. It's holding people up. They're in real trouble. They're having to make choices between paying their student loan and paying their rent, those kinds of decisions. It should be done immediately.
Then on November 17th, the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and chief stimulus negotiator for the Republicans took to Twitter and responded to the Democrats who are calling for him to put the HEROES Act to a vote in the Senate, tweeting, House Democrats' so-called HEROES Act is so unserious that it was condemned by the Speaker Pelosi's own moderate Democrats the instant she put it out. Huge tax cuts for rich people, he writes, in blue states, but no second round of the Paycheck Protection Program? Those are their priorities? McConnell's statement that moderate Democrats condemn the HEROES Act probably refers to the 14 Democrats who voted against the original HEROES Act back in May. Later that day, Mitch McConnell sent out a second tweet attacking the HEROES Act, writing, quote, another Democrat demand that's blocked by partisan aid, the fixation on a massive slush fund for state and city governments, unlinked from COVID need. Some states are taking in more tax revenue this fall than they did before the pandemic. It's struggling families who need urgent help. That same day, Pelosi and Schumer sent a letter to Mitch McConnell urging him to join them again at the negotiating table so that they can work out another relief package for Americans. Their letter reminded McConnell of a statement that he made after the election where he said that, quote, it's a possibility we will do more for state and local governments in terms of stimulus. Their letter to McConnell says, we agree, and we write to request that you join us at the negotiating table this week so that we can work towards a bipartisan, bicameral COVID-19 relief agreement to crush the virus and save American lives. The letter points out that, quote, millions of unemployed Americans and those facing eviction and hunger demand action from their leaders. The time to act is upon us like never before. They conclude their letter by writing, quote, for the sake of the country, we ask that you come to the table and work with us to produce an agreement that meets America's needs in this critical time. McConnell responded to Pelosi and Schumer's letter in a press conference later that afternoon. Here's what he had to say.
Mr. Leader, is your pessimism on COVID relief based on actual conversations you've had with Democrats or simply on their public statements? And then secondly, it seems like you are going to take the lead back from Secretary Mnuchin. Are you going to now talk to Speaker Pelosi, and does President-elect Biden have a role in shaping it during the lame duck?
Well, first, I'm based on what I'm seeing publicly, because we've had no private discussions about this. And it looks to me like the Speaker, the Democratic leader of the Senate, and former Vice President Biden all have the view that $2.5 trillion are nothing.
McConnell suggested that state and local governments don't need the amount of stimulus money that Democrats are demanding in the HEROES Act.
As some of you may or may not have noticed, revenues at the state level are basically up almost everywhere. And they continue to insist, apparently, on almost $1 trillion for state and local government. That has nothing to do with solving this problem.
McConnell said that he is open to passing another skinny stimulus bill in the ballpark of around $500 billion. Here's what he had to say on that.
So to sum it up, I'm open to a targeted bill, roughly of the amount that we recommended, $500 billion, which is not nothing, narrowly targeted at schools, at healthcare providers, at PPP, and of course liability reform to keep America from being engaged in an epidemic of lawsuits on the heels of the pandemic. Very open to that. But I've seen no evidence yet, as several of my colleagues have suggested, that they're open to it.
We will just have to wait and see if McConnell and Pelosi, Schumer, and Biden come to the table and are able to work out a stimulus package for the Americans like they were put in office to do. Until then, make sure to hit that subscribe button below right now and turn the bell notification icon on if you have not done so already, so you don't miss any of my second stimulus check stimulus package update videos. And as always, thank you for watching.